So before we get into the podcast, I just wanted to let you know that we find out about the Ferrari news after we finish recording, but then we recorded a little segment, which is later on for you to enjoy, because as you can imagine, I feel great. So have fun. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy. What a race we have had. 10 out of 10.
Wow,
Stone cold banger. Like, I am on cloud 9. Charles Leclerc winning from 20th on the grid with a broken front. Oh, no, that's not what happened. I do also enjoy the fact that, you know, everyone that's been a big podcast fan of ours, listen to a lot, you'll know that we have a sheet. And Tommy likes to write things that I occasionally read out. I've actually stopped myself this time because it says that we're talking about the Australian Grand Prix today. So I'm glad that I've managed to stop myself.
I wish we were.
And it is, yeah, I wish as well. Shall we just reflect on Australia again? Shall we just do that? That would be much more fun. And of course, the Chinese Grand Prix. First and foremost, a quick shout out to our wonderful Patreons. A lot more of you flying in. You're seeing the benefits, aren't you? Ad-free listening. You get the wonderful access to our Discord. You get early access to tickets. You get extra waffle at the end of this podcast where you can ask more questions. We dive into a few other things that we haven't covered in the main pod, but don't worry, lots of content coming your way if you're not a Patreon either. And we still have a lot to talk about as much. And it's funny as well, I feel as though the more boring ones is when we actually give you more content and rant about things a little bit longer. So if anything, you're sad that the race was bad, but you get more P1 with Matt and Tommy.
You do. And I do think there is actually a surprising amount to talk about from that race, even though on track, yes, it was very much the fears of the sprint were very much came to light, didn't they? Of the fact that the dirty air was so problematic that it was very difficult to overtake. And even when every single Pirelli graphic was saying it's a two-stop, it's a two-stop, it's a two-stop, it was quite clear that a one-stop was possible, apart from one team, but we'll get into them later because I'm ready to
Ferrari with Hamilton,
go on.
They did it as well, don't worry.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a few things that I know that we're going to pop off about, which is good fun. But first and foremost, let's go into my most memorable moment. And it, of course, was that Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, faster with a broken front wing. Now, we had the sprint. Lewis Hamilton was incredible. Charles Leclerc was struggling. Charles said he was trying to make some setup changes to go more towards what Hamilton was doing, and he was slightly more hopeful for the race on Sunday. Of course, into turn one we go, and Charles very nearly wipes out both of them with a little move down the inside, which he wasn't trying to pass Hamilton, but he was also being obviously quite eager to stay on the inside. Didn't expect Hamilton to come across, which Hamilton did slightly. Of course, no blame on Hamilton whatsoever. And then a clip that we've seen much less cause a puncture. So Hamilton got away with that. Charles Leclerc, I thought his race was done when I saw that front wing. It was slightly slanted. It was an end plate missing. And yet he became the greatest driver of all time after that and was quicker than his teammate for the first time this weekend.
We were so close to eating our words of, no, Charles and Lewis will never collide. It's never going to happen. They're two of the best wheel-to-wheel racers. They always give room and respect. And we were literally about another 10 centimetres away from the second race of the season, them ploughing into each other and essentially, so lucky not to have been more of an instant. Charles just lost the car on the curb. And what kind of has ended up being quite a nothing incident has ended up kind of was so close to disaster, but thankfully for Ferrari it wasn't.
Am I remembering correctly that in my season predictions I said that teammates would come together in some form?
So are you having the point or not?
100%, because I'm pretty sure I said contact of any description. So that's a little tick box in that one. I'll remember that later on in the year. But it obviously was quite a strange thing to see Charles Leclerc be so quick out there. Question from P1 Patreon member It's Logan. Should Ferrari consider removing Charles' left front wing end plate for future Grand Prix? Now, I know this is done as a joke, but obviously
But
they
yes.
can't do that. That is literally within the rules that they have to have an end plate on the front wing. This is going to sound like it's just Charles Leclerc fanboy, but in just logically, if he has both front wing end plates, he's going to go quicker. I know that there is this whole discussion of the end plate maybe balancing out the car in some weird way, but he was also losing quite a bit of time. Turn 12 was mentioned, and he said after the race that he was losing time because of that front wing damage. So I am fully of the opinion that Leclerc has finally got on top of his issues this weekend and done a really, really good job. Hamilton, on the other hand, I think just struggled. He just struggled this on Sunday. For whatever reason, I'm not sure. He said after the race in the post-race radio that, well, to be fair, more the team just said, you did the maximum with the pace that we had. So what that actually was, or the problems that Hamilton had, remains slightly unclear, especially when you think of the fact that in the sprint, he was the tyre whisperer. He was amazing, but then he was in clean air. A completely different story when he wasn't. But back to Charles, I just think he drove really well. And I know some people will go, oh, yeah, but it's the front wing, clearly, like the end plates clearly made him go faster. Scientifically, that is not probably the case. And in my opinion, I'm thinking, damn, we could have maybe got a P4, P3. But we don't know what the loss is. 20 to 30 points of aero loss is massive.
As much as it's fun to roast Ferrari and pretend that their car is so bad that, complete unbalancing of the front wing makes them quicker, it's not an outrageous thing to think that Charles Leclerc would have more pace than Lewis Hamilton. I know what we saw from Lewis Hamilton in the kind of sprint. And of course, he was the king of kind of being able to manage at the front. You're never going to once Hamilton was in the front, he's done it so many times in his career, won so many races. It was just kind of a Saturday drive, and not Sunday drive, but a Saturday drive for him. Like, not to take anything away from it, it was an amazing performance, and for anyone to beat a McLaren at any point this year has to be massively applauded. But we saw how difficult it was in the dirty air, and Hamilton had his struggles. And yeah, just Leclerc just seemed a little bit quicker in that situation. And I have to say, they did swap the cars, which is
Hamilton's
clever tactic
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Is
very interesting.
Is a different scenario perhaps to the last few years when Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz have been teammates. Hamilton obviously volunteering that, which is pretty awesome. Of course, at the same time, said, I will know when to make the swap, or something to that degree, back to his team.
It was very much.
We should swap this lap. He said, no, yeah. I know when to swap.
Yeah, it was still him controlling the situation without it being a kind of like, oh yes, team, I'm bowing down to your every move.
I'm not going to lift off. Yeah. If Charles is a second back, I'm not going to just lift off and let him through, because I'm not going to lose any race time. If he gets close, I'll let him through. And that's what he did. And fair play to Hamilton for that, playing very much the team game at the moment. Next question, P1 Patreon member Rebecca. Are we going to see a serious teammate battle between the Ferraris? Yes, I think so. And I think it will chop and change. Hamilton, as we kind of mentioned, you cannot fault his Saturday performance, and obviously his Friday sprint as well. He maximised absolutely everything there. But on Sunday, Charles bounced back and done a really good job. It's not a case of one being terrible, one being great. I think that Charles just did slightly better on the Sunday, despite the wing damage as well. And I can't wait to see how these two push each other forward. And with Hamilton's experience, with his knowledge of setting up a car, I think that's going to be massive for Ferrari moving forward. And to have grabbed a sprint win is not something any of us expected coming into this weekend. I think it's going to be a ding-dong battle between Leclerc and Hamilton this year.
It sure is. And are we surprised that that's the case? Probably not. I'm certainly not. I think I feel like this could be a trend throughout lots of different tracks, and we saw it even between a sprint and a main race. Sometimes one of them's quicker, sometimes the other one is quicker. Very evenly matched. And it is funny, and it's something that we've spoken about so much, and particularly going into the season, that is it the right thing? Weirdly, the kind of position they're in now, where they're kind of trying to go forward and they've not got quite got the car there, you'd be saying, well, actually, this is a good thing that they're willing to switch. They're going to push the car forward. If they were in McLaren's position, they'd probably be a lot more selfish and be like, no, I'm winning, and it would be a bit more fireworks. But at this point, I think they know that the car is not quite there, and they are kind of working together somewhat to deliver the maximum, and it's not quite much of an issue. If we get into 2026 and they're still this close and they've got the fastest car, oh boy, is it going to be good.
I would take the fast car and Charles Leclerc having a serious battle on his hands against Lewis Hamilton. We will take the fastest car in 2026. Thank you very much. Let's go to your most memorable moment. Most memorable moment. There we go. Most memorable moment. Tommy.
My most memorable moment is the VCARB strategy, and not for a good reason. I am, honestly, as someone that loves Yuki and wants him to do well, this has happened a lot, but especially this year, it hurts even more. I'm sick to death of watching Yuki Tsunoda be about 6th or 7th on the road, and then the second it comes to the team getting involved and doing some kind of pit stop, he finishes the race in 12th or 13th or something. How on earth VCARB, when yesterday we were talking of them as maybe even having the best of the midfield, maybe even more extreme, saying it could be, as good as the Red Bull, which may be a bit of an exaggeration, but they were close to Max at the very start of that stint. And then once again, the strategy, they've just thrown it down the toilet, like a result down the toilet. And it's painful to watch because Yuki Tsunoda, in the last race, I can give him a bit of credit for the fact that it's a difficult situation to manage with the rain and things like that. But they lost a great result, maybe even a P5 from just leaving him out, hanging him out to dry. This one, in a dry race, everyone else pretty much has kind of done the normal strategy, and why they were in a great position. And I think it is an absolute joke that they have basically ended up with no points. Their best car is 14th when they should be where Haas was in that race, with a 7th and a 10th, maybe even higher. It's insane. They're 9th in the championship. They're just throwing points down the toilet with these awful strategies. And it's painful to watch as someone that wants to see Yuki do well.
Tommy, gosh, never knew you had it in you. It's pretty, it's pretty crazy. I obviously echo your thoughts. I think it is unforgivable how VCARB, RB, whatever they're called these days, go about their strategy. They are the worst team on the grid for strategy by a comfortable margin.
We race Ferrari. They are much worse.
Yeah, and they just don't get the limelight because they're not fighting for wins or for podiums. It's as if they take the Pirelli graphic that comes out before the race and goes, this is gospel. This is absolutely the only strategies available to us, because all three of them were 2 stops. And fair enough, it was marginal between a 1 and a 2, but it's Formula 1. How often do we see one-stop strategies? All the time. And it's not even as if people can go, well, actually, they committed to a 2-stop, so therefore they were kind of screwed. There were drivers that pit on exactly the same lap, Ocon, I believe, being one of them, who then did the rest of the race on a 1-stop and finished 7th. Why would you give up track position after you literally have evidence that overtaking is really hard, despite sometimes having a tyre delta to the car ahead, it's still difficult to overtake. Why would you give up track position thinking you can just fly through the field?
It's insane. And Lance Stroll did the research for them because he stayed out and showed that the 1-stop was possible. Everyone else saw that and went, yes, it's a 1-stop, apart from Hamilton and Ferrari. But it was a roll of the dice.
As much as I'd like to think Lance Stroll is a trendsetter and everyone's looking at Lance Stroll's race, I'm sure it's probably teams are just working on the fly, right? They're just being fluid about it. They know that they don't want to stop, ideally, if they can, and they made it work. The only 2 stops out there were obviously Hamilton, who I would say didn't massively work. And to be fair, if anything, if he had stayed out, Max may have taken a bit longer to get through. Would he then have would Charles have then lost a position to Max? I think in hindsight, maybe the Ferrari had a better chance of scoring better positions without the 2-stop. Obviously, Hajar, Lawson, 2 stops, Gabriel Bortoletto, 2 stops, and Yuki Tsunoda, 3 stops because his front wing failed. Whether that would have continued to... Because it was in the slipstream, wasn't it, with Yuki, where his front wing just failed to work. You do wonder if perhaps maybe all these combination of factors came together and that's why it failed, and actually it would have been okay. Who knows? But VCARB, you've literally got maybe the best of the rest car.
Yes,
best of the rest car, and they are 9th in the championship with 3 points. Sauber are ahead of you.
Yuki Tsunoda could this is not me being a Yuki fanboy, could legitimately be about 7th or 8th in the championship based on if they'd maximised Australia and the result. He could have got like a P5 in every single kind of result, and then like P7 today or whatever. Yeah, because there's no coincidence that the sprint where there's no pit stop, they delivered.
Now, Christian Horner is obviously going to look at this classification and go, Yuki Tsunoda 1 lap down.
His front wing fell off. He's not got it.
Lawson, finished 4 places ahead of him. Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda doesn't deserve the seat. Ridiculous. Anyway, moving away from VCARB, I think they've got enough of a roasting. Question from Manny_J Kim. Is Oscar Piastri going to surprise and prove himself as world champion material now? I think so, yes. I think that Oscar's proved that if he can sort qualifying, beat Lando, as much as Lando has had the advantage in qualifying, it's always been pretty close. Just Oscar's been that half a tenth back from Lando that he just hasn't been able to get track position. He got pole here and he was comfortable the entire race, it felt like. So it is a championship worthy drive. He's proving himself more and more into his 3rd season now, and I feel as though if he can continue this trend, obviously he can position himself to potentially win the championship. But it does, and I said this I think at the start of the weekend, but it does feel like Oscar has taken another step forward in this kind of what we hear 5-year Oscar Piastri plan or whatever it might be, that by then he'll be a more finished driver and stuff like that. Christ, I don't want to think about what Oscar Piastri is going to be like in 5-6 years.
Yeah, pray for everyone else.
He had Lando's number. He did. Of course, Lando did try to close in. Dirty air's difficult, but they're so close, those two, that if Oscar's ahead, the race pace struggles that we saw in his early career have dissipated now by the looks of things.
And probably helpful that McLaren is very good on its tyres as well. And Oscar has absolutely stepped up. Of course, it's gutting to look back on Melbourne now and think that a normal race and without that mistake, he's leading the championship. But he's absolutely there, and he's not gonna let Lando Norris just run away with it. He's absolutely taking the fight to him, and in the sprint, he was the one. Yes, but both McLarens under-delivered during qualifying. But he did enough to grab the points there and do a good job. And then in the main race, he just led away from the front. And I think even without Lando's car issue, it's nothing on Lando being able to get past him, but I just don't think it was ever possible for him to get past with the dirty air when the cars are quite similar. It just never looked in doubt for Piastri to win that race, really, from very early on.
Yeah, speaking of the Lando car issue, probably want to dive into that slightly. Of course, a few laps from the end, and you hear this a lot, don't you, from, perhaps when Hamilton was dominating or whatever, the lead car, team radio engineer comes over, so we're managing a bit of a blah, blah, blah issue. Can you just make sure you do this? And some of the times you just think, it's the team being overcautious, trying to give us little bits of hope of, we could get a battle for the win at some point. Obviously with Lando, again, he was continuing to push to try and catch Oscar Piastri, but then they started to realise that this long brake pedal was getting worse and worse to the stage where it was critical. And then with 2 laps to go, on the penultimate lap, Lando was losing 3 seconds a lap to George Russell behind. A few more corners, not even a lap, and George Russell's through. Lando could have, if one more lap had happened, he might have lost a couple of positions. We don't know how much slower he would have had to have gone. because a brake issue is massively scary. So Lando, you could almost see that he didn't really mind finishing P2. It's good points, but also the relief that he didn't have to DNF or go down to 7th or 8th if that had happened maybe 3-4 laps earlier.
An insane thing to think about, as if Lando did retire from that race, George Russell would be leading the championship from Max Verstappen. How insane is that? But yeah, the fact that Lando, I think he'd absolutely take that result. He's not going to be disappointed finishing P2 to Oscar. I think even without the issue, he's absolutely taking that result, because he's the one that delivered in the first race and got the big points. And in a championship, he's obviously going to be in a championship fight this year. It's about picking up the maximum points, and consistency is so important. So he's absolutely taking that P2 every day of the week. It's just going to be how, when we get, it doesn't really matter at this stage him finishing second behind Oscar. It's when we get into if we get 6-7 races time and it is a McLaren 1-2 every single race. We've said it might also change, like we saw last year with what happened with Red Bull. He doesn't need to kind of go for like a hero win and catch Oscar. But yeah, he can be massively relieved that didn't affect his result at all in the end, because genuinely it wasn't even another lap. It was 2 more corners and Russell would have beaten him. Yeah,
for sure. Let's go now to a question from P1 Pitch member Anastasia W. Should we start worrying about Max's chances in the championship? Now, Tommy will, I'm sure, have his say on this, be like, oh, it's all over. It's similar to my Ferrari emotional stability.
Yeah,
Yeah, but before you go off on your little emotional tangent, I will come in more with the logic, because I don't have that same connection to Max Verstappen and his results. He worried, maybe, slightly, but this is the beauty of Formula One. Literally last year is evidence that just because one race a team's not that great doesn't mean they're not going to be great at the next race. Australia, Max was very strong in changeable conditions and challenged for the victory. Yes, China, it didn't work out for him. They weren't very quick. But the tracks are so unique and so different that we could see George Russell fastest in Japan. We could see Max fastest in Japan. I still think McLaren will be fast in Japan. But that is the beauty of Formula One at the moment. So I would say you have to wait until almost halfway through the championship to see where Max stands before you can even comment on whether he will have a chance at the championship. Right now, yes, he's 8 points off the top. He's scored good points so far in a car that is absolutely not the fastest. If he's 100 points off at the halfway mark, then yeah, we can call it quits. But you can have a slight bit of worry, Tommy. But if you say it's all over, I will be very upset with you.
I am in 2 minds about it, because McLaren are looking mighty and the Red Bull does look so awful. But the kind of saving grace here is that in the first 2 races of the Red Bull looking like an absolute S-box, and Lawson's there driving around at the back, which we'll get into later, and looking like he is literally driving a tractor, Max is 8 points off the championship lead, when he should probably be about 20 points off the championship leader, if not more. And if he can deliver a P2 and a P4 when the car is really struggling, we all know what he can do if they just find literally anything. And that consistency of Max is something that is going to kind of keep him in that fight. It's not going to be, if he can just kind of stay in the fight, we're going to see how it kind of progresses, because you can't really count anything, because it's all going to come down to what teams decide to do with their development and things. Because one driver we'll get onto now is that thought Mercedes would just be like, no, let's all focus on next year. George Russell is got 2 podiums now, and he's doing a great job as well, and kind of keeping himself in the mix.
He is doing a great job. And that's your point, before we move on to George, about the car development and where teams decide to close the book on 25 and go to 26. Logically speaking, if Red Bull look like they're going to be absolutely washed in 26, why wouldn't they throw everything at this year?
Throw now, yeah.
To make sure Max can try and win another championship. These are factors that we might well see come into play as the races go on, because the pecking order won't stay the way it is, in my opinion. Lando, McLaren, Oscar, they think they're beatable. I think they still have a very dominant package where once they hook it up, but they're not miles ahead. Like Max finished 16 seconds off the win. That's not an unsalvageable margin. It's not like he's finishing 40, 50 seconds back. So there is still small glimmers of hope for Max fans, that's for sure. And mainly just because I want, in an alternative reality, I want Max to win the championship, so I can reply to everyone who said that we are absolutely finished for predicting Max P1 in the championship. So let's see how that one goes. Next question, P1 Patreon member Dino. How good are Russell's chances to win the championship if he keeps getting consistent podiums? Well, if Russell keeps up this performance of just being there, that he puts himself in good stead. What he needs is the pecking order to change. He needs Ferrari to be the quickest car and McLaren to have slightly bad weekends, and he still slots himself in a little P2, P3. That's what he is relying on. On the face of it, it looks like McLaren obviously have a car that is very versatile, dynamic on whatever track we go to so far from what we've seen, and from last year as well. They were very good at a lot of tracks. But yeah, he needs Russell to have Norris and Piastri start tripping over each other and inheriting victories like he did in Austria, stuff like that. But for that, George has absolutely maximised both of the races.
He has. He's made a fantastic start to the season, done a really good job. I mean, chances of the championship, you have to be able to win the championship. He, as a famous Will Buxton quote.
Add that to the words of wisdom. If you have a good car,
but this question is almost saying
you have to win.
What are his chances?
I know,
by just getting consistent podiums. Because
Tom is rolling them out. We love it.
I am rolling them out, but it is so true, because you can't. If he doesn't win a Grand Prix, you can't win a World Championship by just finishing third every race, and even if the McLarens do trip over each other and you're finishing like seconds and thirds, you can't win a World Championship by finishing.
But I think the question is more kind of diving towards the fact that he is in that consistent podium position, and if McLaren do mess up, then he's the one there to actually capitalise.
Maybe.
So I'm sure he'll win a few races this year, especially if he's not that far off.
If he's got the pace that he has, and we saw what he could do in qualifying as well. Tracks where it's difficult to overtake. We're going to get to a few of them this year.
Wait, we've not already just had one?
Yeah, well, exactly. But even the next one is going to be incredibly difficult to overtake. So if you could just get ahead of the McLarens in qualifying form, they probably are beatable in a weird way, even though they do have this absolute insane car. It doesn't feel like they're completely untouchable in a weird way.
P1 Patreon member Chillar comes in with a question. Is the Haas faster than we thought, or were they smart with the strategy today?
Both.
I think that Haas have a package that they might not truly understand right now. They were horrendous in Australia, albeit that was quite a changeable condition, difficult weekend for everyone. We come to a dry weekend, and Ocon maximised everything with his performance. Easily driver of the day for me. And Oliver Behrman scored a point as well in P10. So Haas got the strategy right. They're clearly not as bad as everyone thought after Australia and after testing as well, where they just tootled around at 6 seconds a lap off the pace and just got mileage. But this is the performances we sort of expected from Haas coming into this year. So yeah, Haas are quicker than what some people thought were 10th fastest car, and Sauber are the greatest of all time after the first race of the season. But it can chop and change. But Ocon Ocon beat Antonelli. Like that is a ridiculous performance from Ocon. So Haas will be very happy.
Ocon was sensational, and I put on Twitter about it that it wasn't seeming to get mentioned that he was on the back of that leading pack in a Haas when they were so awful, and he was there even, and then just kind of did the same strategy as the leaders, or maybe a bit earlier, and beat a Mercedes with the undercut, and an amazing job from Ocon. Behrman provided some entertainment as well with his overtakes, doing a completely the reverse strategy, like flipped the other way, where he came through the field at the end. And it's a great result for Haas. And are they faster than we thought? I think this is literally just a case of the midfield being so close that it is literally circuit dependent. We've seen now in Formula One, the qualifying sessions are a second separating the entire field, and half a second here, even 2 or 3 tenths, you could be down 3, 4, 5 positions, and it is going to change. We could go to the next race and it not suit Haas, and they're back to being nearer the back, or maybe Williams are quick this week, or Alpine, or whatever. It's just changing all the time, and we mentioned about this kind of front battle and having 4 teams going for the championship. We kind of got all these teams as well at the back, just picking up the scraps and going for best of the rest. And it shows that anyone that puts in a good drive, Nico Hülkenberg last week, Esteban Ocon this week, no matter what car you're in, you can get a very good result. And P7 is sensational from Ocon. Definitely should have got driver of the day, but alas.
But he did not. Somehow Antonelli got driver of the day, which for me votes just screams Tom Bellingham burner accounts. So
yeah, that will bots for the last
come
week.
To light. That will come to light at some point, I'm sure. Let's move away from great performances to potentially ones that are left quite a bit on the table. P1 Patreon member Sam Dougie Douglas. Is Liam lawful? I assume that meant to say Lawson.
That's meant to say Lawson.
Unless that's some sort of random
some kind of slander
is that some sort
name.
of random nickname?
Oh, is that a slander name that I've accidentally
Liam
put in?
Lawful.
Oh no, sorry. That is meant to say Liam Lawson.
That's crazy.
Sam Dougie Douglas. That's crazy.
Sam Dougie Douglas. That is a crazy slander name from you. Is Liam Lawson done? I cannot think of a poorer performance by any Red Bull driver ever. I mean, it's been statistically the worst start to a Red Bull driver's career ever for Lawson. Is he done? We're literally 2 Grand Prix into the season.
2 races.
But I can't really see a massive way back. Like that, it's not as if it's a small jump that he needs to make. He finished over a minute behind Verstappen. He was fighting cars that obviously the Red Bull shouldn't be fighting. It depends how Red Bull see it. If Red Bull see in the data that Lawson is starting to get a handle of the car, then they'll keep him in. If he starts to show improvements, then they will. But it's such a difficult. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know which, because there's plenty of options that are viable now. Where Red Bull go, okay, Lawson, you can't drive the car. Go back to Racing Bulls. Sonoda, it's your time to shine. Or Hadjar. Or they even go more cutthroat than that, which you mentioned on the live stream, Tommy, earlier, that do they just say, Lawson, okay, sorry, mate, this was your opportunity, you didn't take it, let's get Lindblad in, who is massively rated and is going to be in Formula One at some point. So there's 3, there's the nice approach, okay, go back to what you like, Lawson, and go in the Racing Bulls and score some points, or you're done. And I don't know which way they're going to go. I feel like it's going to be nice. It could go all 3 phases, to be honest with you. So hard to tell.
And we've seen Red Bull do all of them as well.
Yeah.
Look at Perez last year. People were calling for him to be dropped way earlier than he was.
Yeah, if the Mexican Grand Prix was third race on the calendar, maybe things have changed.
But then equally, you look at Gasly, maybe he went too early. Albon, that changed, and they've kind of been so cutthroat. Sometimes, Kvyat is a great example that he didn't do nothing wrong, but they had to let Verstappen in. He didn't do too much wrong for him to warrant the replacement. And then equally, someone like Perez could have kind of one entire really bad season. So which way do they go? There's no doubt that this is just so much worse than you could ever have predicted. Going into the season, we kind of thought, Lawson, okay, if he does better than Perez, it's fine. You say by the second race, he has qualified P20, P18, P20, P20. I think you shared something that he's actually, his kind of average position in his first 3 races is worse than Nikita Mazepin's in a Haas, which is insane. And then even in the race,
19.6 or something.
Yeah, even in the race, he's awful. Like he's so bad, like so slow. He's racing the blooming Saubers.
I did enjoy how in commentary they were like, "Yeah, but at least he can overtake." He's overtaking.
That was
overtaking a tractor.
Exactly. And the surprising thing as well is in the sprint, he showed that yes, he was kind of getting his elbows out and maybe being a bit too over the top at some points, but he was passing things like Alpines and stuff like that, and he was making those moves. So I thought maybe he gets to like P13 or something in the race, but no, he was just nowhere the whole race, just at the back with the Saubers. Insane. So
he ended
bad.
up finishing 20 seconds off the points in the end. Oliver Behrman obviously finishing P10. So we will see. It's a storyline we didn't expect to come up so quickly. I feel like 80% of our podcast over the last 18 months has been about the Red Bull second seat, but it is such again. Just roll it out again. But it's not as if it's an unfair thing to talk about. It is much worse.
It's a massive talking point. It's a massive talking point.
Yeah. So we will see, but I think Red Bull will not have the same patience as they had with Perez. I think that is very clear. We will see.
No chance.
Okay, let's get into our prediction, shall we? Where it's 3-2 to me right now, coming into the Chinese Grand Prix. My good surprise. Isaac Hadjar, thoughts? 7th on the grid. Behind his goat.
No.
No, come on.
No
come
chance.
on, relax.
Absolutely no chance.
No, but you said it was RB. This is all about the driver.
No, but then you're like, Magnussen's got a cold and can't race. It's still biggest flop. So
that's true. He should, not get a cold. No, I'm kidding, but I did still get that point.
No, you're not.
I know,
no
0
chance.
points, but it should have been points because RB just decided to completely throw the race.
I went for Haas, which is an absolute worldie of a shout, and I think I deserve 2 points for a team. And it's also the biggest good surprise as well. Yeah. Let's open up to the comments. Yeah,
look,
2 points.
Okay, right. You ruined it because I was going to be like, Tommy, that was a really good prediction. Well done. I'm so happy for you. You're just changing it on the spot. You're changing the terms and conditions.
I'm pretty sure at some point we said if you go for a team, you get 2 points.
That's just such a wishy-washy. I think we might have spoken about that in our sleep. Not that we sleep togetger.
Get it in the comments. Get it in the comments.
Yeah, I know, but
we might need it as well based on the next ones.
Okay, well, look. So you're already massying this. That is crazy from you. But yes, I think that it is a very good prediction. It's come in much better than I think you would have ever anticipated. Well done. Let's see if people think it's 2 points. But I also am very keen to lay out the fact that, when you make the prediction, we come to that agreement. Not, I think
you've never done that.
No, I've never done that once. But when it's not in my favour, Tommy, I have to try and, I really want to win this predictions championship.
You really do.
Okay, let's see. Let's see in the comments, and we will go with whatever is the top comment in terms of whether Tommy deserves 2 points or not. My big flop. Hamilton.
Ooh.
So he actually got beaten by his teammate who had a broken front wing. So I think that's a point.
Won the sprint.
Well done, Hamilton. Not that I thought that he himself was completely finished. I thought he just needed a little bit more time to get up to speed with the Ferrari, and then he went and won the sprint and got pole in the sprint. So good job. I
went for Pierre Gasly, which is, I know he finished P11. The Alpine were looking absolutely dreadful all weekend, and Doohan had his moments where he looked like he was kind of there or thereabouts with Gasly, but Doohan, not mentioned him, but had quite a scruffy race. We'll go to it in drive ratings, of course, but yeah, scruffy race from Doohan. Yeah, I was monitoring his race. He was about 3 seconds off his teammate, maybe halfway through the race. I'm thinking, okay, that's all you kind of need to do. Then he decided to go wheel to wheel with Isaac Hadjar, and he was aggressive is one word to use to decide in his defence of that position. Even though he had aggressive. A 10-second penalty as well, he went, I'm going to show exactly how I can go wheel to wheel battling. It was not enough of a performance from Jack Doohan, finishing 16th. How far was he off Gasly? 21 seconds. It's not enough at the moment for Alpine to not start, or they probably already had these discussions. So let's see. With the little incidents as well here and there.
Exactly. Right, more predictions. As Tommy has scored 1 point, I've scored 0 at the moment. Sprint poll. I went for Oscar Piastri. No.
And I went for Lando Norris. No.
I can't believe that. I thought at least one of us would get a point.
I know. How is that not
which is crazy.
A point? Crazy.
Sprint winner. I went for Piastri.
I went for Piastri. No.
So that was new. Pole position. I went for Lando Norris.
And I went for Lando Norris. No.
And then the top 3.
Oh, no.
In third position.
Okay.
No, go on, what?
I was going to say, do you want me to just read my top 3 and then you can glory just...
Okay,
like,
that's fine. No, if we can have every spotlight on me, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, Tommy, you go first.
So P3, I went for Max Verstappen. P2, Oscar Piastri. 2 points for Haas. Come on, chat. And first, Lando Norris. No points.
And to be fair, I do think that maybe teams, maybe in the future, after this Grand Prix, we could discuss that should be 2 points. But let's see if this time comes in. My top 3. In third position, I went for George Russell. Ding! In second place, I went for Lando Norris. Ding! And in first place, I went for Oscar Piastri. Ding!
How have we got a 3-pointer already? That's insane.
That's absolute. I think I should get 6 points for getting all 3 correct. It's a double points episode right now. Yeah. Okay, so that's a huge point swing.
Fair play.
Yeah, didn't put Max in my top 3, and it paid off.
It did.
Speaking of top 3s, over to the family top 3. The Constructors' Championship. It's currently 1-0 to the Gallaghers. If you're listening for the first time, we have brought in family members to give their top 3 ahead of the weekend in our Wednesday predictions episode. And this is a separate Constructors' Championship. It's got nothing to do with the drivers, which is me and Tommy. And I am currently 1-0 up after my dad was so close to a 3-pointer in Australia and didn't manage to get it, but still got 1. Okay. My mother went for third place, Oscar P.
Oscar P, of course.
And that was wrong.
My mum went for Antonelli, which was wrong.
In second place, my mum went for Max Verstappen, which was wrong.
And my mum chose Lando Norris P2, which was correct.
God damn it. And in first position, my mum went for Lando Norris, which was wrong. Well done, Mum. She's currently on holiday in Morocco right now. How dare you? 0 points.
Enjoy the sun. And my mum went for Piastri. So
your mum has cooked.
She has.
If she'd only gone for the other Mercedes driver like me, she would.
Bellingham's back in the lead.
Yeah, well done. You can. No one cares about the constructors anyway.
It's where the money's had. Did we mention that it's a £1 million cash prize?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, God, yeah. Tommy, you're making
funded
some money
by,
that you're not telling me about.
Sponsored by? No, it's not.
Yeah, let's see if someone will sponsor it for me.
Anyone?
That'd be quite fun.
Drunky, come on.
Yeah, come on. Right, so crazy predictions from us now. My crazy prediction was none of the rookies will have or cause an incident.
Wrong.
Wait, what? Talk to me.
Bortoleto spun off. Jack Doohan crashed in the sprint, got a 10-second penalty, caused a red flag in practice.
Okay, all right, stop. You can stop showing off.
Minus
crazy.
4, was that?
No, we don't get minus points, so that's great.
And mine was a Ferrari gets knocked out in Q1.
Which was actually slightly
it was on
at
one point. It was on.
When Leclerc had 1 lap to do in Q1.
It was on enough that you said you were going to punch me in the face at one point.
I did, because you were really praying for that, which was wild. And then our Patreon predictions, which is a new segment as well, once again this year, where we select a prediction. So from our wonderful Patreons over in the Discord, where we ask for your predictions, then we pick one as our own that we can then have as part of our predictions and score points or a point. Mine was from Bushwookie 5128. No, it wasn't. Was it? Did I go for that one? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Did I say that? Oh my God!
You did.
I must have
crazy.
You
were on the Ferrari. I don't know what's the opposite of hype.
Carlos will finish ahead of both Ferraris, is what I said.
You were serious depression after
I literally don't
Melbourne.
Yeah.
You?
Oh yeah, I really was. It feels like we've had about 12 races this weekend with the.
It's literally because you've gone Charles Leclerc world champion. He's finishing fourth. He's fastest in FP2 in Australia. He's winning. Now he's rubbish. Now he's the goat with a broken front wing. The roller coaster is insane.
It's a big roller coaster. What did you go for?
I went for Charlotte 90. Every car that starts the race finishes it.
And who was it that didn't finish?
It was
Fernando Alonso. Ah, yeah, who's 19th in the championship right now.
20th.
No, Bortoletto's behind him, isn't he?
No.
20th. Oh, okay, so the F1 standings on Sky are right.
Oh, really?
Thank you very much for that. That's,
I've got these 20th, but I need to check that. Let's
Formula
check
1.
that.
Formula 1 has Alonso.
Yeah, because Bortoletto's finished a race, so surely. Oh, no, but then it's results.
What about sprint result?
Yeah, no, he's definitely last. Alonso's definitely last. He's had 2 retirements. He's the only driver with 2 retirements. Bortolet's got P17.
Yeah, so Sky just baiting me with that one then. Thanks, Sky. Alonso, P20. That's even better. But you have so many drivers that you support that you can always then just fall back on someone that's doing well. It's really quite annoying. To be honest
I'm like
with
Oscar Piastri with his heritage.
Yeah,
it's just like Chinese Grand Prix, home race, let's go.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, that is it. We didn't have not the chunkiest compared to what we usually do, Tommy, for a boring race.
No, we'll save the dirty air rants for if it happens again in Japan.
Yes, yeah, fingers crossed the dirty air goes away now. But thank you everybody for watching and listening, as always. We will see you in a couple of weeks' time for the next race review, which is, of course, Japan. But, of course, we've got more content coming your way. We've got driver ratings, of course, also live streaming on YouTube and Twitch for all the watch-alongs across the year if you want to sit with us and enjoy Formula One. And that is it. See you very soon. Tommy, what's your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are that... oh my god, this is my first bottle of the year with the final thoughts.
Why don't you say that if you do want to put your predictions in for Patreon, it's patreon.com/MattP1Tommy.
Yes, and if you want this extra waffle that we're going to talk about right now, which sadly involves Fernando Alonso,
premium waffle,
then join Patreon for some more bants and our wonderful Discord. That's a great laugh.
Exactly, as well as ad-free listening and everything else in between. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you literally tomorrow or whenever for driver ratings, so enjoy that. Bye. Okay, so we are coming in with a small little segment after we have just learned of the terrible, awful, dreadful news that Charles Leclerc has been referred to the stewards after being underweight with his car, Gasly as well. So your big flop could very well come in at the very final second, which is absolutely disgraceful, to be honest with you, Tommy. But more so on Charles Leclerc. I mean, we are taking this as disqualified, realistically, aren't we? Because underweight cars, even with the front wing. So let's give some context to this. If you haven't seen the technical delegates report, car 16, Charles Leclerc's car was weighed and it was at 800 on the dot kilograms. Then they changed the front wing and it became 800.5 kilogram. But then they removed some of the fuel out the car, which they do every single time. And they removed 2 litres of fuel out the car. And they weighed the car, 799 kilograms. And
that's the slam dunk.
It needs to be 800. So obviously we want to get the pod out, but thought it was important to include the fact that he is going to get disqualified, which... how
do you feel? Don't even need to ask.
It's raw right now, the emotions that I'm feeling right now.
I know. And
just... ridiculous. I mean, I'm glad he didn't win the race, because if this had happened and he'd won the race, I might well have had to have covered a different sport. But this is still irritating beyond belief, because you never know. Ferrari could go on a great winning streak in the second half of the season and win everything.
Just when we thought Charles had kind of outdone Lance Stroll in their Titanic Drivers' Championship battle, it looks like he could go behind him again. And I think this is a slam dunk, though, joking aside, because we saw what happened in the US Grand Prix, wasn't it, last year? No, sorry, the year before.
George Russell, don't forget as well.
Yeah, of course. If you're underweight, you can get big penalties.
Yeah,
disqualification is the only way. Yeah.
Is that's it? It's a precedent. You have to be 800 kilograms. So good times, really fun. I still stand by the fact Charles had a great race, and we didn't take it away from George Russell, did we? In the sense of the amazing drive that he did in Spa. I know some people will go, well, there you go. That's why Charles was quicker than Hamilton. Marginal, tiny margins of gains potentially, but I'm just dead inside. So I thought we would just do a little segment on that to make sure that everyone's up to speed. Yeah. I'm sure the confirmation of the disqualification will come soon. So
the final.
I want to be past Matt that was currently just on the podcast, not this current present Matt that knows all of the facts.
Saying that, yeah, like he's kind of done one over on Hamilton this time or whatever. But yeah, it's not like an absolute fundamental difference of, oh my God, he wasn't going to finish last, was he? If his car was a few, what was it? How much was it? 1 kilo?
1 kilogram underneath.
1 kilogram, yeah, exactly. So that was exactly the same as Russell, wasn't it? 1 kilo, I believe. So it's not going to make the widest amount of difference, but we know that essentially,
it's the rules. It's a Ferrari mess up.
It's literally the flat out rules. So yeah, big mistake from Ferrari, and it's going to cost them big and more pain for Charles. Yeah.
Oh my God! Lewis Hamilton's car rearward skid has failed the post-race check for thickness. Charles Leclerc's car hasn't complied with the weight limit. This is what Luke Smith has just tweeted. That I've just seen come up.
Way.
It could be a Ferrari double DSQ.
Oh my God! Double DSQ. No way.
Why do you sound so excited, you dick? I'm allowed to say podcast. I've just said it.
No way. Look, they were getting a bit too close to Kimi Antonelli in the championship.
The excitement you just showed, that's why we are.
That's
crazy.
We're parting ways. That's crazy.
P2 with Tommy,
that
and
is
I'll
crazy.
be P1 with Matt.
Well, I said biggest flop Ferrari this year, and they're really trying to bag it for me, so that is crazy. Both of them. No way. Oh yeah, I've just seen it. Hamilton, risk of disqualification. Oh my days. Oh my days.
Ocon's going to get P5.
Ocon's going to what?
Antonelli's now going to deserve his drive of the day of 6th place.
Yeah. Antonelli's going to shoot up in the drive zone. Oh my word, they could both get disqualified. That is insane.
Okay, no more pod. I don't want to do any more podcasts, so take care of yourself. We'll reflect more on this in driver ratings when...
Goodbye.